Hey guys, it is Precious Regine
And my name is Daniel Sanchez, and we're very excited to be here.
talking about the detrimental effects that technology has on kids, specifically infants, which is from ages 1 to 3.
And we just want to remind everyone that's the age range that our three articles are covering.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're just hoping to connect with those mothers, with those first time mothers, with those struggling mothers, with those mothers that have multiple things to do. Like, is it bad to give my child an iPad?
Or not. So, one of the articles that I actually read, the effects of technology with kids, is that it affects, their emotional dependency with a lot of other things. And this article was by Coyne et al. And et al. Simply just means multiple different authors. And this was actually written in 2021, which is pretty recent actually.
Yeah.
And one of the effects that technology has on infants is that infants with higher media exposure experience a hindered ability to self-regulate.
Oh, wow.
That is pretty huge. And affects their social dysfunction.
Now, can I just stop you for a minute there? So, in my head, I'm thinking, whenever we give children or infants iPad or an iPhone, there's a lack of social interaction. So, do you think that that's the reason why, there's these problems with self-regulation and...
I can definitely see that, but again, people can argue, they think, oh, by giving my kid an interactive show, they're getting that social aspect, that social interaction, when we actually see lots of different articles that show that it is more beneficial to connect in person than via technology.
Right.
Because they're not able to read those social cues like facial expressions. So, of course, it can impair their social abilities, especially when it comes to interacting with others as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, like, you can't teach a child just from watching, like, something on their iPad. You're not going to be able to read facial expressions.
And apply it to the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So leading into...
I'll just say this real quick. And it also causes them to have a loss of interest in other activities, because think about it, technology is incredibly addicting, and infants, their brain is developing. Like, think about it, why would I go hang out with Bill and play with him when I can just go play and sit on my iPad all day watching Cocomelon?
And you know what, the thing about technology is that it has these bright colors, multiple objects moving, and that's what
it's more interesting than a person.
Exactly. So I can totally see what the article was discussing about at that point. But leading into like our next segment here, so one of the articles that I reviewed discussed about how screen usage in infancy impacts the quality of sleep. Now, one of the things that the article that I reviewed discussed about was the importance of sleep itself.
Who was the article by?
It was by Ribner and also multiple authors, and it was published in 2019.
Okay.
So, for sleep in newborns, 16 hours of sleep is required per 24 hours.
Oh, wow. So that's 2/3 of a day.
Exactly. So
is 16 hours the minimum, or is it the maximum?
So actually, the World Health Organization says that for infants, 12 to 16 hours is considered good quality of sleep.
So they can function with just 12?
Yes.
But 16 is where they should be at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. And so good night's sleep is also positively correlated to an easier temperament and better cognitive skills. Cognitive skills meaning, memory tests, academic class, and things of that nature. Okay. Before I mention about the findings from the study, I want to state that these are all correlational studies.
Correlation does not equal causation.
Exactly.
Just because two things correlate does not mean just because this happened, this is going to happen.
So basically, from the article, screen time is negatively associated with nighttime sleep.
Okay.
So much so that 1 hour of screen time is equal to 13 minutes less of sleep at night. So imagine. So if you have your infant watching a movie is how long? Like 2 hours and a half?
Yeah, that's true.
That's already like an hour, close to an hour less of sleep that your infant is going to have.
Yeah.
One of the other things that they mentioned in the article was that these findings are consistent with adolescents and older children.
Oh.
So, which is pretty obvious, I think, in my opinion.
That's true.
Also, another article that I reviewed was talking about how screen time impacts a child's weight.
Ooh, screen time and weight.
And weight, right. And that also surprised me as well because, I never heard of, like, an obese infant or anything like that before.
But I can kind of see it because, like, even as an adult, whenever, the stereotypical lazy person, that person's always watching TV and eating, so they're not getting that physical activity. So I can see it, but in infancy, it's kind of bizarre. So, like, what does it show? Who's the article by?
Oh, yeah. So this one is from Adams. It was published in 2018.
Oh, okay.
So first they talked about the importance of interactive play in children.
Okay.
Interactive play meaning that both the adult and child are getting in that physical activity.
Yeah.
That actually the APA, which is the American Academy of Pediatrics, recommends a limited amount of screen time in general. No television in bedrooms.
Ooh.
No screen time during meals.
Ooh.
Because they actually found that when a child is eating and watching a show or a movie, they lose track of what they're eating because they're so focused on what they're watching that they lose track of what they're eating. So, like, findings from this study actually said that sedentary meaning like sitting down, watching screens, is associated with an increase of risk for being overweight in childhood. So imagine if you're having your child already being predisposed to those risk factors.
Exactly.
You're setting them up for failure in childhood and setting them up for failure in adolescence. Setting up for failure meaning that they're at risk for being obese.
Yeah, because think about it, infancy is the best place to set a foundation for how a child becomes when they get older. If that foundation is not, properly healthy, it's going to have detrimental effects long term. This is why infancy is so important, like doing the things that will better
right now.
Yeah, that will help aid your child in the right direction.
So, I feel like our viewers are kind of taken back because we just discussed about a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
But, there are things that caregivers can do, alternatives.
That can help.
Yeah.
With, instead of giving your child technology. Because I know it's very easy to be like, oh, just take this and leave me alone. But one of the things that we suggest is playing a game.
Yeah.
It has, especially hand-on games, it has a lot of helps in regards to cognitive functioning. So what games would you suggest?
I suggest, doing social games like peekaboo. That's like a social giving back.
Peekaboo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For your older infants, for 2 and 3, doing hands-on crafts.
Yeah.
That way they can start working on their motor skills.
Yes.
Learning how to pick up scissors, learning how to hold a pencil, a crayon, and all those things. What else do you suggest?
I would say imagination. Imagination is so important. So you can tell your infant, oh my goodness, imagine this and this is happening. Imagine a story. And because, it's obviously easy to say this, but I'm trying to think about, a single mom who has so much work to do, who's so busy, she doesn't have time to pay attention to her kid. Like, of course, giving her child or their child technology is like an easy fix. So what would you recommend? Like, we're not saying that if, you give them technology every single time, there's going to cause detrimental effects, but we should just be aware of it because a lot of technology is not good. Too much of everything is not good.
Exactly. And, and actually in the article that I read about obesity, it's recommended that an infant, so your child and you as a caregiver, both get in that interactive physical play. Because, as a mother, you're going under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And so doing that physical activity, that's a leeway or a relief of stress.
Yeah.
And so, but like you said, all of the findings are all correlational.
Yeah.
So it's not that every time that your infant sees a screen, they're automatically getting negative effects. We understand that you as a parent may have those really bad days where you have multiple errands to run, calls have to get made, laundry has to get cleaned, and you can't simply play with your child. Yeah. In other words.
Sometimes you just don't want to. You want a break.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you should have your child watching a movie the entire day.
Exactly.
Maybe half of the day, your child can be...
Half of the day, think about it. You know, if they're asleep for 16 hours.
Exactly.